offended. One much word, that's global business. Don't fold if you say you win it. I was older to it now. Can't control, just the highest limit. Killing shit, but just an honest living. Gotta get it, ain't no time for wishing. Time is now, better pay attention. In my city, you can feel the tension. A terror squad, no pun intended. This ain't for me, but I recommend it. They know we coming, better clear the entrance. Shit get deep, but I keep digging. This how I look when you keep winning. Over time, I had to take the hint. Shine bright, sit behind the fence. 101, I ain't in the mix. Ain't what you thought, better get a glimpse. Came up from a pedal bike. Press the brakes, I ain't never liked. Whole time I was taking risks. They don't play with me because they know I'm gone. Nice. World form, I ain't even started. Transform, I ain't here to bargain. You're on watch, better move a caution. Chains on me, I don't do this often. No error, this shit's flawless. Reach forward, you become a target. It ain't worth it, better keep walking. All I know is survival. All this fashion is tribal. Want the head of my rival. This about to go viral. Say the word and it's final. Get the moving like Pronto. I'm just living my title. Do this shit with my eyes closed. All I know is survival. All this fashion is tribal. Want the head of my rival. It's about to go viral. Say the word and it's final. Get the moving like Pronto. I'm just living my title. Do this shit with my eyes closed. Don't wanna hear all that street shit. Me and my niggas on defense. Wonder who I was in my past life. Don't even matter that beat this. Remember the days when I was a trooper. Stay on the path and I won't confuse you. As far as all, I'm the one to do it. I roll on eights like a flight maneuver. Try to trick me, I ain't never moving. Camouflage like a blend into it. If that a ride, I don't do the Uber. Let them talk, I don't hear the rumors. A little suffer ain't really nothing. The way I'm stuck, better play the trumpet. You see me coming, better get the running. If they see me coming, better get the running. You ain't never seen it, you ain't never witnessed, you ain't never noticed, you ain't never focused. I was really waiting, I was really trying. Sick and tired of being patient. I ain't never died, this was in the making. Use what I got, not in the waste. But rapping the thing I could never drink. But I'm from the bottom, so I gotta make it. This ain't rapping, it's a damn warning. Late night to the early morning. Got a vision, I planned it out. Trying to stop me, but I kept going. I studied playing down in the game, and it's all the same, but I had to change. You'll never crash if you in your lane. I can take the law, cause it's all a game. All I know is survival. All this fashion is tribal. Want the head of my rival. This about to go viral. Say the word and it's final. Get the moving like Pronto. I'm just living my title. Do this shit with my eyes closed. All I know is survival. All this fashion is tribal. Want the head of my rival. It's about to go viral. Say the word and it's final. Get the moving like Pronto. I'm just living my title. Do this shit with my eyes closed.
Hey, Shalom Israel. Yabashim Yahushua Baruch Atham to all the brothers. Yahweh Shamar Alathan Bashem Yahushua to all the sisters. I'm Priest and Officer Commandant holding down the Lashawan Qadash. The Lashawan Qadash. If you are new to if you're new to your identity, meaning that you just found out that you are an Israelite according to the Bible, right? The Lashawan Qadash is going to teach you and is going to root you back into your holy language. Holy means separate, right? Because the Lord is separate. So he has made us a separate people, or people that's set apart. So he has a culture, he has a heritage, he has a language, right? Every time you see an Asian man, an Arab man, right, you could see that they wear their culture, they put on their culture, they you don't even have to look at them. You could just hear them from afar and you know what type of people they are, right? They'll be speaking Arabic and you know that's a what do you call this? Like a Arab, right? They'll be speaking Chinese, Japanese, and you know that they're that people, right? So that's part of your culture. They put it on, meaning, they wear their garments, they speak their language, they do certain things. And Blacks and Latinos, your identity, your heritage is found in the Bible, right? Here I have the Tanakh, the Torah, the Bible, right? In the Hebrew, right? This right here is important because the Lashawan Qadash doesn't only teach you your language, but it also helps you to remember, the lesson. So Saturday, which is tomorrow, we hold a Sabbath service, and you'll have a fresh memory on how to read, how to pronounce words, how to identify characters. All these things are going to be utilized, especially if you want to be a priest and officer in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, right? So if you guys could get a hold of this right here, is the Hebrew into the English, right? Hebrew into the English, and this is what we read, right? That's why it's important for us not only to go into the ancient Hebrew, but also into the Syrian, because this is what you find a lot of the times, and this is what we read out of. But nonetheless, we still pronounce the ancient characters and the Assyrian characters, even though they look different, they are still pronounced the same. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna read. So here we have the ancient, which is Lashawan Qadash, right? Here we have characters. These are the ancient characters, which is 22 characters. 22 characters. 27 characters in the Assyrian. And you might ask yourself, why is it 22 characters and then 27? I'm gonna explain that as well once we go into the characters and we start pronouncing them, and also get familiar with the characters themselves, right? So now here we have the Assyrian. These are what the Assyrian characters look like. Right, this is what we were writing in the Assyrian captivity, right? And this is prior to the Assyrian captivity. So here we have connectors. These connectors lets you know if a word is being identified singularly or if it's joined to another character to make a pronunciation. So one thing you have to remember is that you have this character here, which is like a frown, and then you have the character. That symbol, not a character. You have the symbol, which looks like a frown, and you have another symbol that looks like a happy face, right? So one thing you got to remember is when you have this symbol that looks like a frown, you have to remember that is like a single, like a dot. It's like it lets you know that character is being pronounced alone. Right, so when you have the happy face, that's like a double, right? Two characters being joined together to make a pronunciation, like we have here with the one. So we have Lashawan Qadash, right? So Lashawan comes from the word Lashan, which means tongue. Right, that's what it means. Lashan means tongue, but when you add the y in there, it's like it's a tense. So it's like adding ing to a word. So it's something that the word is doing. So the tongue, what does it do? It moves, right? So it's like it's speaking, right? And then we have Qadash. Qadash means holy. So we have Lashan means tongue. Qadash means holy. Right? Holy is nothing spooky like how the Christian church makes it believe that, oh, you're holy. It's something unimaginable, right? Holy just means in the Hebrew separate or set apart. That's what holy means. So it's a language that is set apart only specifically for Blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, right? So the way in the English, let's say if you're not familiar with the characters, the way you will read it is La, Sha, Wan. So we have La, which is singular, Sha, which is us also singular, and then we have Wan, right? With the Y and the Na come together to make one. And then we have Qua, which is singular as well. And then we have Dash, Qadash, right? So that's the breakdown of the Lashawan Qadash. It's a tongue or language that's separate from all the languages, right? The Lord put divided the languages, right? Because during the time of the Babylonians, Nimrod wanted to come against the Lord when one consent with all the other nations, and the Lord separated them, right? He divided the languages. So right, so but nonetheless, our language is pure, right? It's separate from the language that the so-called small hat imposter has, right? He speaks a Yiddish language, which is Hebrew with German. It's a mix of Hebrew and German, right? But it's mainly more German than Hebrew. And then you have a modern Hebrew, right? Like they say ata, we say atha, right? They say Yahudi, we say Yahawada, right? That's the pure form, the pure way of saying it. They have bastardized our language. Everything that belongs to the Lord, they have bastardized it, right? They have what's the word? They have made it filthy, right? That's the best way I can describe that. So we're gonna get into the characters. And then last week, we went over the 12 tribes, how to say them in the Hebrew, and also what are their meanings. So today we're going to go into the 18 nations, right? Their meanings and who are they today, right? So anybody tuning in, shalom to the sister Olivia. Anyone, and if you need, let me get this Salakia. So if you need an alphabet chart, right, so you could get familiar with with the language, and also we have a Hebrew tense, and we were off for some time, right? But since we're back, we're gonna start all over, and we're gonna go into teaching you the prefixes, the suffixes, which are called the let me get my phone. Which are, where do I have it? Here we go. The propositions and the possessives, right? Which propositions are prefixes, which it's something that comes in the beginning of a word, right? And then we have possesses, which is a suffix that comes at the end of a word, right? Because so we'll get into that, and then we have past tense. Right, well, we have the tenses. There's different tenses, so we'll be getting all into that, right? Break it down for you so you can, get familiar and get you on the right track. So we're gonna get into the characters. So we always start off with the characters. And one thing you want to do also is, as I'm pronouncing them and writing them down, right? If for some reason the camera is not adjusting to the frame, right? If it's blurred, you can always zoom in, or you can always pause the video later on and come back. Like I said, like I was saying, with this chart, drop your email or leave it in a comment. Let me know that you need this chart right here, and I'll get it to you. I'm gonna put them all down. I'm gonna do them in the ancient and then also in the Syrian, just so we could go get them over with. So here we go. So here we go. Shalom to the brother, the trooper Muslim Yah. Shalom, Lord of Christ. So if you was to count the characters in the Assyrian, right, you will come out to 22 characters. If you was to count the characters in the ancient, in the ancient is 22 characters, and the Assyrian is 27 characters. Now, I'm going to underline the double characters. All right, I'm going to underline one character in the blue. And I'm going to underline another character in the red. And that's just to identify these characters. Why is some of these characters are double characters? Right, so I'm gonna pronounce them. Right, if you are tuning in, go ahead and pronounce them with me. Right, ah, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ka, ta, and the ka comes with the vibration of your throat, right? That's how you pronounce the ka. Ta, ya, ka. La, ma, na, sa, I, pa, taza, kwa, ra, sha, tha. Again, I'm going to pronounce these in the Assyrian, which is, right, these characters look way different than the ancient characters, right? But nonetheless, again, you pronounce them the same pronunciation. Ah, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ka, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa, taza, kwa, ra, sha, tha. Now, as I was mentioning, in the Assyrian, you have 5 double characters, right? You have the ka, the ma, the na, the pa, and taza, which are double characters. And these characters with the blue underline, you will only see in the beginning or the middle of a word, right? Now, the characters with the red underline only are used at the end of a word, right? And I always give the same breakdown, how to distinguish, right, the characters. So you have, I'm gonna use I'm gonna leave this up and I'm gonna come. Okay, how can I do this? I'm just gonna have to use the bottom space. So I'm gonna just use 2 characters, which that have the ka. the ka, which is kan, kan, which means yes, and it is. I'm gonna write it in the Assyrian, right? Khan. Okay, and this is in the ancient. Khan, and then another word that has the K at the end. I mean the so like not the K, so like the Ka at the end is Malak. Malak, which means king. All right, king, and Malak is Malak, Malak, and it is right. So now here we have Khan, which we if you've been in the Israelite School of UPK, this is a word that's utilized often. We say Khan, La'ah, which means no, right? But Khan means yes or yeah, right? So you invite the brothers over. You be like, hey, can you confirm if you're gonna come through? Khan, right? Yes, I'm gonna come through. So in the ancient, you have the ka and the na, which makes Khan, right? So here we have the ka. Here we have the ka with the blue underline because it comes in the beginning of a word, right? Or the middle of a word, where here is utilized in the beginning. And then we have the na. The na is another double character. So this na is the na with the red underline because it's at the end of a word, right? And then we have malak. Malak, which means king, right? So we have the ma, which is a double character, right? Malak, this is the ancient, and then we have Malak here in the Assyrian, and the ma is the ma with the blue underline because it comes at the beginning of a word. And we have the la and the ka again, right? And then this ka here, you see the difference from the ka with the blue underline and the ka with the red underline. That's because this ka comes at the end of a word, right? So I'm gonna leave that for one quick minute, right? Take a screenshot. If you're new, if you've been tuning into class, just be patient. Right, and the brother Matamya said that the está bonito el hebreo paleo, right? So, and to translate that, the brother's saying that the Paleo Hebrew is beautiful. That's the word bonito, is beautiful. And Salakia, right here, let me take this off the Lashawan Qadash for a quick second so you could see the bottom of the screen. Okay, let's see. There you go. Okay, so now you could kind of see it better. So in a minute, we're going to get into the heathen nations. the real Gentile nations. All right, so I'm gonna erase this. So today we're gonna learn how to say Gentile in the Hebrew and how to say enemy as well. So Gentile. Let's see right here. So these are Gentile and enemy. Right? So Gentile in the Hebrew is Guaya. Okay, so Laki, let me do Gentile first. Salakia, let me pause this class for a quick second. All right, Salakia, we back. Check, con. So, Guaya, Guaya, right, in the Hebrew is, Salakia, it's not Guaya, it's Gaya. Gaya. Ga, Gaya. 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 Gaya, right? And then we have enemy. Right? Because the 18 nations, according to the Bible, are enemies, right? And they're the true heathens, so like the true Gentiles, right? Except for some exceptions, Israelites who took the heathen custom were considered in how can I say, like they were called Gentiles for that reason, because they took upon the Gentiles customs, right? And they started to worship the Gentiles gods, So Ayab. 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 Right? So that's how you say Gentile is Gaya, enemy is Ayab. Now, if you want to say Gentiles, right, you want to make it plural, Gentiles, you would say Gayam, Gayam, which is Ga, Gayam. An enemy is Ayab, Ayabyam. Ayab, Ayabyam. All right, so this here, enemy is Ayab. So like a Gentile is Gaya, right, which is singular. Now, if you want to say Gentiles, is Gayam, right? The yum makes it plural, makes it more than one, right? Gentiles, Gayam, right? Here we have it in the Assyrian, Gaya, Gentile, Gayam, Gentiles. Enemy, Ayab, right? Ayab. And the enemies, more than one, which is the 18 nations are our enemies, right? That would make it Ayab Yum, right? The Yum is a proposition, which is a suffix, and it makes it more than one, right? Ayab Yum. So now we're going to go into the 18 nations. Now that we know that they're the Gentiles and they're our enemies. There's 18 nations in the Bible, and those nations are still walking on the earth. You know, the Lord has never cast them out. Like just how he says, has the Lord casted out his people, which are Israelites? God forbid, right? So he has never casted out, you know, none of the other nations. They're just known, just like how blacks and Latinos are so-called, right? And I'm going to give you their so-called name as well, just so you'll know who I'm speaking about, right? The so-called oppressor, right? His name, his biblical name, Edom. Edom in the Hebrew, which, you know, you'll read about Edom in the 25th chapter. In the Hebrew is Ayab. Da Wam. Adawam. Right? And so it's Da Adawam. Adawam. All right. So Edom are the Caucasians. So here I'm gonna write Caucasian. So so-called. Okay. All right. I can't say the other name because of YouTube. Now they'll probably shut us down. But you know who are the people of the Caucasus Mountains, right? So Salaki, I'm supposed to give you the definition or the meaning. The meaning is red. Red for the ground, right? Because the word Adawam comes from the word Adam. Adam, which is Adam, right? And that's where it comes from. Ground, which the ground is red. So it means red, but it comes from the word Adam. Which means ground. Right? The ground is red. So Adawam, which is the oppressor's true identity according to the Bible, right? The Edomites, Idumea in the Greek, right? In the Greek is Idumea, right? Edom, which are I'm gonna write it down over here, the Caucasians. Next we have Moab. Moab in the Hebrew is Mawa'aba. 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 Mawa'aba, and it means of mother and father. And they are the Chinese. Chinese. Right? So Ma, right? Ma is a prefix. Well, let me see. Ma is a prefix. There we go. is a proposition. Ma is a proposition that means of. Right? And the thing with the Hebrew, the word, the way you make a name is like certain words that are combined together. So wa is of, ma wa abba. So abba is father, right? So you have mother is ama, right? Ama, but since to make a name is ama wa abba, right? But the name is ma wa abba, which means of his father, of his mother and father, right? And then we're going to break it down once we go into his brother, Ammon. Ammon in the Hebrew is Imawan. Imawan. So I ma I ma one. I Imawan. And Imawan means people. Right? They are the so-called Japanese. They are the so-called Japanese. So people. So like let me see. So when you have the wa in here, right, it makes the word it's a noun. It makes the word into a noun, right? So people, right? A noun is a person, place, or thing. So now the Salakia, it's turned a word into a name. So people is now a name, right? I'm a one, right? So it means people because it's a people of itself. People of itself. Right? Why is it people of itself? Or if you know the story of how, if you know the story of Lot, right, of Lot in the Bible, you will know that Lot, right, he dwelled in one of the cities, right, Sodom and Gomorrah, where 5 cities got destroyed, and the Lord told him to leave, right, and never look back. Of course, his wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt, just to kind of refresh your mind. adds a little bit of details into the story, so that way you could recall back. That's like one of the famous stories, right? The Lord destroyed it because in those days, just like today, right, you had a big LGBTQ movement, right? And the Lord destroyed that city because it was corrupt, it was polluted, it was disgusting, right? Utterly disgusting. It was an abomination. So what happened? Lot and his daughters, all right, and his daughters were pretty young, and the daughters believed that it was the end of the world. So they planned to lay with their father so they can pollute so they can populate the world again. So, right, when they got their father drunk, right, and they bear him children, right? So what you have here of mother and father, right, is a son that was born of the daughter of the father, right? And then a people of itself, meaning a people of itself, meaning that the daughter slept with the father in, how can I break it that down? Salakia. Pretty much, if you know about the Chinese and the Japanese, right, they have a thing that's known as something that's called Mongolism, right? Mongolism, everybody knows, like, in Spanish is Mongol, right? That's what Mongol, that's where you get the word Mongol, right? And it's in the, how can I say this? The pretty much is Down syndrome, right? When incest, that's what it is, right? When you commit incest, you're gonna have a child. You're gonna bear a child that's gonna be born with Mongolism, right? With Down syndrome. That's what it is, right? So that's how you see, the Chinese with, they look Salakia, they look retarded, right? Because they have Mongolism. They look like they have Down syndrome because the daughter committed incest with the father, both daughters, right? And that's how that condition is born. Somebody who has a condition of Mongolism or Down syndrome is because they committed incest. And I was watching this documentary, real quick, watching this documentary about a people in Alaska, and they claim that they are the descendants of Genghis Khan. So I was watching, but one thing that caught my ear is that it said, oh, well, this is the father, so-and-so, and this is the mother, so-and-so, right? It's saying their names. And like, this is the daughter, and this is her son, who is the son of the father, right? So that's just something that's in their spirit, to lay down with, their daughters, right? That's disgusting, right? So, we have Edom, which in the Hebrew is Adawam, which means red, because it comes from the ground, from the word Adam. And these are the Caucasians, right? The oppressors. Of course, these are Gentiles. These are our enemies. We have Moab. In the Hebrew is Mawa'aba, right? Which means of mother and father. And these are the so-called Chinese. Now we have Ammon, who in the Bible, their biblical name is Amawan, right? Which means people or people of itself. And it means and they are the so-called Japanese, right? We're gonna keep going, moving forward. We have 18 nations. You can always come back to this class and pause it, take notes, what have you. So the next nation, we have Ishmael. Ishmael in the Hebrew is Yashamai. Salakia. Yashamai. Yashama'ala. Yashamai Allah. Yashama'ala. Yasham. Salakia. Let me look for something real quick. Yashama. Yashama'ala. 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 And it means he is heard by the power. He is heard. And they're the so-called Arabs. Right? You have Yah, which means he, and that's a proposition, right? Which is a prefix. Yah is he. Shammai is heard, and Allah is power, right? He is heard by the power. Yashaba'ala. Next we have Elam. So Elam is Yalam. Ayalam. I Ya Ayalam. Ayalam. And it means hidden. Hidden, and they are the so-called East Indians. Right? So we have the Ya in here because Ilam means hide. Ilam, right? So it comes from the word Ilam, which means hide. Right? But when you add the Ya, right, that's a tense, and the Ya makes it future tense, right? So you have hide, hidden, right? That's future tense, hidden. Why are they hidden? Because they, right, they committed, just like every nation, right? They treated us bad. They, they oppressed us, all of that. And what the Lord did, the Lord cursed them. Right? The Lord cursed them to the point where, right, the curse that was put upon them was that they were born with 8 arms, right? 2 heads, an elephant nose, right? They were joined by the hip. So, that made them hideous. So they had to hide themselves. Right? The Lord caused deformities on these people. Right? That's the reason why they had to hide themselves, which right means hidden, because they're a hideous people. Next we have Japhet. Japhet in the Hebrew is Yapath. Yapath. And Yapath means expand. Expand. And these are the Polynesians. Right? Also, the East Indians are known as the Dravidians. The East Indians are the Dravidians, right? So Japhet, Yapath, expand, and they're the so-called Polynesians. Right? And the Polynesians, they, let me see. Right? Yapath, he's the forefather of the Polynesians. They are the Eskimos, the Samoans, Hawaiians, Aborigines, Australia. Let me write that down right here. Samoans, Hawaiians, oh, Eskimos. Eskimos, Aborigine Australians. Right? These people expanded. They just got on the ship and right, they expanded to, you know, the islands. Right? That's Japhet, Yapath. And another thing with the J, right? The reason why the J is being utilized, or the Y, I mean, so like the Y got changed to the J, is because they didn't want Latinos to know the name of the Lord, right? Because the Lord's name is not Jehovah, or in Spanish, uh, Jehovah. Right? That's not the Lord's name. Right? The Lord's name is Yahweh in the Hebrew, right? Which means He exists, right? So, um, right. So the Y got changed to the J, so you wouldn't know. So we wouldn't know the Lord's true name, right? So here we have Ishmael, which are the Bible describes them as being a wild people, right? They I'm not sure if you've seen videos where they grab like swords and they just bang themselves or whip themselves. They whip their own selves with the sword, right? And they're bloody everywhere. They, you know, the streets get bathed in bloodshed, right? From themselves, right? And it's Yashama'ala, which means Yah is He, Shammai is heard or hear, right? Allah is power or God, right? He is heard by God, by the power, right? Then we have Elam, which is Ayalam, which comes from the word Ilam, means high. It means hidden. And these are the East Indians, the Dravidians. We have Japhet, and the Hebrew is Yapath, which means expand. And these are the so-called Polynesians, which makes under the umbrella are the Samoans, the Hawaiians, the Eskimos, the Aborigines, Australia, right? These that's these nations here. Now we're going to continue and get the the next forefathers of these nations. Next we have Ham. And the Hebrew is Cham. Cham. Cham, and it means hot. And these are the so-called the Africans. Cham means hot. The Africans, right? And then you're going to find these in the chapter 10. So Edom, right? You'll read about him in Genesis, the 25th chapter. Moab, I forgot to also name the books, right? Moab, you'll read about Moab and Ammon. You'll read about them in Genesis, the 19th chapter. Ishmael, you'll read about Ishmael on in Genesis, the 16th chapter, right? Japhet, also the 10th chapter. Genesis, the 10th chapter. Ham, Genesis, the 10th chapter. Then we have Mizraim. Mizraim. And it is Matazarium. Matazarium. Matazar. Matazarium. Matazarium is the Egyptians. Oh, Salakia. I forgot to give you the definition. The definition for Matazarium is bondage. Right, so matazar is bondage. Now you have the yam, which makes it multiple bondages, right? Slavery. And they are the so-called Egyptians. They're the Egyptians, and then we have Canaan. Canaan in the Hebrew is Canaan. So it's Canaan. 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 And the meaning is humiliated. Humiliated. These are the so-called South Africans. The so-called South Africans, and the word Canaan comes from Kanai. Kanai, which means bring low. Bring low or humble. Right? So humiliated for the reason why, because Ham or Ham is the forefather of Mizraim, Canaan, right? And he has four sons. We're gonna go into the other sons, right? So he's the forefather of the Egyptians, the South Africans, the Cush and Foot, right? He's the forefather of those nations. The so-called Egyptians, the South Africans, Cush, which are Cush are the Ethiopians, and Foot are the so-called Libyans, right? So we're gonna go into those right now. So humiliated, right? Canaan, which means humiliated. Why? Because Ham, right? He's one of the three sons who survived the flood with Noah. He's Noah's son, and Noah, right? He had a little bit too much drink one night, right? And he had uncovered himself. And Ham came into the room and saw his nakedness. And he had, the scriptures don't say this, right? But he looked at his father as an alternative lifestyle man would look at another man, right? With like a desire, a lust, right? So he was cursed, right? Which he had his son Canaan, and therefore his name is humiliated. That's what it means. Bring low or brought low, humble. So we're going to go into the next nations. Probably should have left Ham up there. Let me see. Anybody on there? Sure. All right. So now we're going to go into into Cush. Cush. Cush is Kawash. Kawash. Kawash, and it means fat. Fat, as in wealth. And it comes from the word kanai. So like it comes from the word kasa. Kawash, kasa means fat, meaning wealth. And these are the so-called, what I say, the Ethiopians. The Ethiopians, and then we have foot. Foot in the Hebrew, and then you find these nations in Genesis, the 10th chapter. Foot is Pawat. Pawat, and it is Pawat. Pawat, and we don't have a meaning. And these are the so-called Libyans. They're the Libyans. And we have Gomer. 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 Gomer is cease. Cease and fail. And these are the so-called this is France, the so-called French. Right? Gomer, Gomer in the Hebrew, which means ceased and failed. Those are the French. So we have Cush, in the Hebrew is Kawash, which means fat in the sense of wealth. These are the so-called Ethiopians. Kawash, in the Hebrew, it comes from the word kasa, right? Then we have foot, in the Hebrew is pawat, right? We have it here in the ancient and in the Assyrian. We don't have a meaning, but these are the so-called Libyans. And we have Gomer. In the Hebrew, it's Gamar. Gamar in the ancient and in the Syrian, which means seized and failed. And they're the so-called French. All right, we're gonna keep going. So now we have Magog. Magog is Magawag. 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 And it means roof. Roof. Why? Because the roof is signifies like the northern. Northern of northern. So like of northern. And these are the Russians. Then we have Javan. And then you'll read about Magog in the book of Ezekiel. Gomer. So like, let me go back. Right, because I did Gomer on the last. Right, so Gomer, Magog. Gomer, you read on the Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, and Javan, you read in the book of Ezekiel, the 37th chapter. So Javan is Yawan. Yawan. And Yawan means ferment. Ferment as a drink. It's like it comes from the word yayan. Yayan, which means wine. Right. So what happens when wine or when you let the grapes ferment, it turns into alcohol, right? It's like the bubbly stuff, right? And these are the Greeks. The Greeks. Right, the Greeks. Then we have the Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz, you'll read in the 10th chapter of the book of Genesis. And pretty much you Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz. And then it's Ashkenaz. 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 And we don't have a meaning, right? But Ash is fire. And these are the so-called, this is the Germans. These are the Germans, right? So we have Magog, in the Hebrew is Magawag. Oh, so like I didn't write it here in the Syrian. Magawag. Magawag, right? Which means roof, as in of northern, right? Those are the so-called Russians. Then we have Javin. In the Hebrew is Yawan, which means ferment. It comes from the word yayan, which is wine, right? When you ferment grapes, it turns into, a bubbly, like something bubbly, which is, something that is fermented. Those are the Greeks. Ashkenaz, right? In the ancient is Ashkenaz, right? Ashkenaz in the ancient, and in the Assyrian, we don't have a definition, but these are the so-called Germans. Right now, it makes sense because the Yiddish, which are the Ashkenaz, right? Back in the day, if you was to type in Ashkenaz on Google, guess what? Guess who popped up as the Ashkenaz? The so-called, small hat imposter. He will pop up as Ashkenaz. Now, if you type in Ashkenaz, it'll say that it is a nomad tribe who just disappeared. But we in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we know who are the true Ashkenaz, right? These are the Germans. That's why that Yiddish is a mixture of Hebrew and the German tongue combined. All right, so we're gonna keep going. We just have the last few tribes, Slavic nations left. I'm gonna end the class. So we have Spain, or Salakia. We have Tarshish. Which is going out. Tarshish, who are the Rashyash. The Rashyash. So we have the Rash Yash. The Rash Yash. The Rash Yash. Which is Beryl. I'm gonna write it down here. Or Emerald. And these are the Spaniard. Those are the Spaniards. So like, let me see. I feel like I missed one. Elon, Jaffa, Hand, what? Spain. Okay, never mind. And then we have Kittim. Right, so you'll read about the Rashiash or the Tarshish in the book of Romans, the 15th chapter. Well, I forgot to mention Javin. Javin, you will read about Javin in the book of First Maccabees in the Apocrypha, the 8th chapter. Right, the Ashkenaz, you'll read about them in the book of Genesis, the 10th chapter. And then Kittim, we're gonna get Kittim, which is Chathayam. 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 And it is unknown as well. There's another one that is unknown, but they are the Italians. Right, they are the Italians. So the final nations are Tarshish, and the ancient their biblical name is Tharashiash. Right, we have it in the ancient and in the Assyrian, which means beryl or emerald. And those are the so-called Spaniards. So I forgot. the emerald. And then we have Kidam. In the Hebrew is Kathayam, right? We have it in the ancient, in the Assyrian. We don't have a meaning, but these are the so-called Italians. Right, with that, I'm gonna end the class. I'm gonna get the let's take the water for everybody who tuned in. I'm gonna get these security announcements, and then we're gonna end the live. So these are the security announcements. We are the ISUPK, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court themselves. So like will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3:8-10. Means 10th. In the Hebrew, ma'ashara, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to treasury department or teacher. Priest fund. So like a free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations. The upcoming holy convocation is the Feast of Fruits, which is sundown June 17th. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, to start wearing all black boots, shirts, pants, headbands, scarf. And with that, shalom. Yabashim Yahshua Barakatam to all the brothers. Yahweh Shamar Alatan Bashim Yahushai.